On October 21st, 1978, Australian pilot Frederich Valentich got into a Cessna 182L light aircraft with the intention of making a 125-mile cargo flight to King Island from Melbourne. The sky was clear and conditions were good, and the plane was regularly serviced. It was 6:19 p.m. when he took off from Moorabbin Airport, and everything seemed to be going according to plan during the first hour of his journey. However, things went from run-of-the-mill to bizarre when he radioed into air traffic control at 7:06 p.m. At the time, he was flying at a height of 4,500 feet above Bay Strait when he asked the controller whether any other aircraft was in the area. Here is the most pertinent part of the transcript.
14 DSJ FS Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000? FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet, no known traffic. DSJ FS Delta Sierra Juliet, seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000. FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet, what type of aircraft is it? DSJ FS Delta Sierra Juliet, I cannot affirm. It's far bright. It seems to me like landing lights. DSJ FS Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. The aircraft has just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above. FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet, roger. And it is a large aircraft, confirm. DSJ FS, unknown due to the speed it's travelling. Is there any Air Force aircraft in the vicinity? FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet, no known aircraft in the vicinity. DSJ FS Melbourne, it's approaching now from due east towards me. DSJ FS Delta Sierra Juliet, it seems to me that he's playing some sort of game. He's flying over me 2-3 times at a time at speeds I could not identify. FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet, roger. What is your actual level? DSJ FS, my level is 4,500, 4500. FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet, and confirm you cannot identify the aircraft. DSJ FS, affirmative. FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet, roger, stand by. FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne. Can you describe the aircraft? What I'm doing right now is orbiting, and the thing is just orbiting on top of me also. It's got a green light, it's sort of metallic-like, it's all shiny on the outside. DSJ FS Delta Sierra Juliet, it's just vanished. DSJ FS Delta Sierra Juliet, the engine is rough idling. I've got it set at 23, 24, and the thing is coughing. FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet, roger, what are your intentions? DSJ FS, my intentions are to go to King Island and Melbourne. That strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It's hovering and it's not an aircraft. FS DSJ Delta Sierra Juliet.
These were the final words to leave Frederich Valentich's mouth. His mic remained open for 17 seconds, and a metallic scratching, described in the transcript as a, quote, very strange pulse noise, unquote, is audible. Here is an authentic recording of the sound which is described.
Do you want to make $1,000 today? And again $1,000 a day? Every day.
Hi there.
The first and most widely circulated theory is, as we might expect, the idea that Valentich witnessed a UFO and this was the cause of his disappearance. The transcript certainly appears to corroborate this, but there is testimony from others which suggests something was in the sky off the southeastern coast of Australia on the night that Valentich disappeared. One researcher, Paul Norman, was able to locate and interview a number of people living and travelling along a stretch of highway known as the Great Ocean Road. This is the highway along Apollo Bay which Valentich would have been flying adjacent to. Reports were given by 20 eyewitnesses in this area, who all stated that they witnessed, quote, an erratically moving green light in the sky at the same time of evening as Valentich's flight. A key witness is a man known by the pseudonym Ken Hansen. His statement is outlined in a detailed report printed in the Journal of Scientific Exploration. Ken was 47 at the time and had been on his way home with his two nieces when he saw the lights of a light aircraft and a, quote, very large green light travelling directly above it, unquote. On returning home, he told his wife of his sighting and was jestingly laughed at. The following morning, he relayed what he saw to workmates, who acted in much the same manner as his wife had the night before. What makes his sighting all the more interesting is, he had no knowledge that a plane had gone down, and he had no knowledge that Valentich had reported being toyed with by a large green object. After the ridicule he experienced, he said no more about the incident until he talked with a local policeman who later mentioned the story to Guido Valentich, the father of Frederich. Guido then passed the name and information of the man onto one of the two researchers responsible for publishing the article in the Journal of Scientific Exploration, Paul Norman. Norman would interview Ken Hansen and his two nieces. They both gave the same basic details as their uncle. It was Tracy, the front seat passenger, who had alerted her uncle to lights that had garnered her attention. At first he could only see the lower flying plane lights, but on being informed by his niece of the, quote, large green light above, unquote, he craned his head so to look further up into the sky and clearly saw what she was talking about. On seeing it, they came to a stop at a number of points along the road with the intention of getting a better view. On finding a suitable location to stop without restricting the movement of motorists, he said that the green light was similar to the size of a tennis ball held at arm's length. It kept a constant distance above and slightly behind the plane. He and his nieces stood watching the plane for about 15 to 20 seconds, after which both the plane and light disappeared behind hills in a descending pattern. No noises were heard from the plane or light, and the witnesses never saw the plane crash into sea or land. Other witnesses are not named, but one is. He was an amateur photographer called Roy Manifold. On the evening when this event transpired, he was taking pictures of the sunset at approximately 6:47 p.m, roughly 20 minutes before Valentich reported having difficulties. The pictures were taken close to the same coastline. Manifold didn't see anything that evening, but his camera did pick up anomalies. These pictures were sent to a number of experts. One of the experts was Dr. Richard Haynes, a former researcher with NASA and associate professor of psychology at San Jose State University. He stated the following with regard to the pictures, and I quote, "Based on computerized data of the pictures, the images represent an unknown flying object of moderate dimensions, apparently surrounded by a cloud-like vapor or exhaust residue," unquote. Others who have looked at the picture have said it's a natural anomaly related to the camera film, or something being located on the lens. When I look at the pictures, especially the one most often seen, I see an unusually shaped object that doesn't look anything like some of the traditional descriptions and pictures purported to be related to UFO sightings, but that's coming from someone with an untrained eye and devoid of the computational applications possessed by individuals working in academic institutions. The last account comes from a report made on the case. It didn't come to public attention until 2012, and the man who gave his testimony has never been found by those interested in the case. According to the unsealed report, he was a farmer who witnessed a strange object in the sky to which was attached a plane similar to the one flown by Valentich. This farmer said oil was leaking from the plane. For us, and probably for you watching, this story is too bizarre, and the fact that investigators have not been able to find them further rules out the plausibility of the report. Some researchers have attempted to give a more down-to-earth explanation for what happened that evening. One theory is that his plane was upside down and he became disorientated. The lights he seen, according to this theory, were those on his own aircraft reflected in the water below. This theory has a lot of holes in it. It seems unlikely that a mistake of this kind could be made from a modestly experienced pilot. The transmissions with ground control went on for 6 minutes. He would have to have been in a pretty sorry state if he failed to realise he was upside down. Another problem with this theory is that Cessna engines rely on gravity to keep the flow of fuel going. A second theory comes from astronomer and former US Air Force pilot James McGaha and an author by the name of Joe Nickell. They hypothesised that Valentich was deceived by the, quote, illusion of a tilted horizon, unquote. In attempting to correct the perceived problem, he put his aircraft downwards and into what is known in the aviation industry as a graveyard spiral. He took this spiralling to be the orbiting of his aircraft. As the spiral's momentum and g-force increased, there would have been a reduction in the fuel flow, which would explain why the engine began to idle. The overhead light reported to the air traffic controller are theorised to be the planets Venus, Mars and Mercury, as well as the bright star Antares. These are some of the attempts at rational explanation. However, another one is that all of this was simply a staged disappearance. They point to a number of signs, such it is still undecided as to why Frederich was making the journey to King Island. He told his father he was going to collect crayfish, but later told flight officials that he was picking up friends. When these reasons were investigated, it was found that no one had either a consignment of crayfish for him, nor were there any friends waiting for collection. Other reasons for believing he planned to disappear was due to reports that Melbourne police apparently received, relating to a light aircraft making a strange landing on Cape Otway at approximately the same time that Valentich disappeared. But these reports seem sketchy at best, and we haven't been able to determine if they are true, or why the landing on Cape Otway was deemed to be a strange place to land. Even if this was the case, that he picked this location to land, what happened to the plane? It's not an easy thing to just get rid of. The final explanation is that this was just a tragic accident, with some mysterious phenomena to explain. One aspect of the case that is often mentioned is the lacking debris associated with a plane crash into the sea. Search teams scoured the area in the days after contact was lost, and subsequent teams have taken their own time to find anything that might indicate what happened on that fateful night. Nothing definite has been found, but there was parts from a Cessna plane wreckage found with partial serial numbers in Bay Strait 5 years after the disappearance. The serial numbers fell within the range of those linked to the Cessna that was flying.